to the first step, optimization and performance. So everything in the scene is either set to static, because there's actually no movement bar particles and the FPS and stuff like that. But everything else set to static, either QD, QD. So yeah, in this, as you can see, like you can't see the buildings, and I'm going to move back the FPS. Obviously, this is with portals, and then this will be with occluder. As you can see, as I am blocking the view on the games into this portal, which is the train scene, train on its side, you can't see the rest of the buildings until you pull back, and as you can see, they're coming in. So that's actually the first 2 points. Just in relation, just in the scene, I just have it set to this particular object, which is, like I said, it's the train turned on its side, and it works off a script and a bool, so on and off. You'll be able to check the triangles when the camera's up close, and it'll be reduced, and then if you toggle that on and off, it will jump up in the triangles. So I'm gonna actually switch it to that, so it works. So yeah, in the LOD then, I have it set to this item here. So if you were to move any of these, always remember to recalculate your light map. As you said, it works off not the distance to the camera, but your screen space. So what's on screen from north to south, roughly it's in the middle there. So 100% as you push back, and eventually it will be cold. So that's it. If you don't have an object with that in it, you literally just add component log group, and then say in the likes of Blender, what you could do is have your model add a decimate modifier to it, reduce it, and if also just to say on that, you have your lighting scale here, the temperature, so from warm to cold. So depending on what you're trying to achieve in the scene, you would alter that, and then you kind of have a bit of a neutral here. But obviously I want this kind of glow because it's a nice fire. And in terms of your shadow map, it's a matter of going edit, project settings, HDRP, and setting it for high, which I have in this, and enable it. As you can see, the shadows popping in and out there. So that's kind of it for the lighting and the real-time lighting. So my color cookie, I went for the bat symbol. I'll show you now. So if I look up here, there, with the bat symbol. So in this scenario, you would have the black would be the actual bat symbol, and the light around it would be white, and that's what comes through. This example you gave was a fan, like, with a bit of movement, but you were probably looking for like the windows, maybe possibly do blinds, but or even off the windows with the frame. But I just kind of, I thought was in keeping with the theme of the game that I was going for, so I ended up doing the bat symbol. Light map, I've actually chosen none, in the sense that um, I just quite liked how it looked in the game with the colors, and everything was working pretty well with none. Obviously, the closer you move towards items, the color pops in. But from what you thought was to start off low and build it up, see what you are happy with, what you can get away with, and then instead of starting at the very highest and then trying to reduce it, start off low and work up. Hence the 512 and 32. So in terms of setting a new one, you just click. I've a couple of settings here. I'm not gonna jump into them, but I was just playing around, just testing, and then baking the different light maps to get. But when I do, I find I lose the ground, lose the likes. I see the clouds there. I lose a few things, and it doesn't look as good as with none set. Um, It's something that I'll probably come back to a bit more. Um, I think what was throwing me was because my scene is so vertical. There's a lot more when the UV maps are unwrapped. There's a lot more space. Um, Whereas the sample you were doing it was a lot smaller in size. So to get it onto the one, I was increasing this to the next level up, but it was still outputting a couple more bakelite maps than what I would have liked. So just to show you, 1024, 1024, 1024, 248. So when I generated um, and let it run, it went from say an hour easy down to, could only be a couple of minutes by reducing of static objects. Pretty much everything is static because I don't have any movement really in the scene. So it's as simple as taking it here. What that does is tells basically that it's not going to move. Uh, you can do individual, whether it's you know just occluder, occludee, such as down here. But for my scene, it was as simple as taking the static box on everything. In terms of the UV modifier underscore, I think you said that's the old naming convention. Using CG. Um, I don't have a great handle on the coding side of things, so I gave my best attempt. Kind of blended a few examples that you gave. Because it's time based, I knew I'd need some that to be represented, so I've sign of time. And then in the example you gave, it was 0 to 1 loop. So if it was to the absolute, so if it was say gas, say, or like kind of effect up by my real time fire there, instead of just fading up once and then taking an age to come back, it's just gonna bounce between two values. I kind of figured these were needed in terms of the UV and the position in the world because that's the whole point, to modify the UV values of a texture. Um, but like I said, look, this is my best attempt. I know it doesn't work, but it's what I can provide at this point. Shader graph. I tried my hand at the triplanar. I didn't get that to work exactly the way it's meant to either. So triplanar projections. So like I copied what you had, and I understand you're masking um, in the different channels. So you've got your X, Y, and Z. Okay, maybe not in that order, but you get the idea. Uh, you can see it's split there down the middle where that one was there, and then this will be front and back. So this would be Z. Yeah. Okay. So uh, yeah, I get that. Dividing, you're multiplying, then you'd have your different shaders with your textures. And your normal vector into the absolute, multiply, split. And then you have the blends. I know you said it weren't quite necessary. And then obviously this would go into your base, and then this add would go into your emission. What I have here is simply a movement, title and offset over time, and I'm going just in the Y, so vertical. Um, I'm just going into Y. So I'd imagine it's a combination of both. I'd have to combine the movement into these textures for the rain to work. I did a bit of development, different YouTube videos because the example we were given runs off um, its amplify color and all the nodes were different. and I don't have enough experience to know that this different node is in this particular amplified color is the equivalent is this in shader graph. I haven't been using it that long to know that. Um, yeah, so as you can see, like I have mapping, and a lot of this is actually kind of what you have. Um, so here's where you'd get the three colors, say on a rock. Again, you have your add. Uh, these are where they're both added together. So in terms of decals, they're all over the scene. I know graffiti was part of what you're looking for. In terms of the actual materials, they are reduced. So like you're looking at 512s here, the clamps, that kind of thing, and just reduce the sizes because I know in previous project the assets were pretty high. And then like this, it looks like stencil graffiti. I kind of just added some of these kind of splashes and this kind of stuff to so it's not just reusing someone else's work. Uh, these floors pieces are all decals and rotated. Obviously, from up here, you can kind of see the patterns kind of repeat, but when you're in the game view with the lighting and a few bits of debris and stuff like that, uh, you don't notice. Um, even this warning sign here is the game asset that came in the pack, and it's missing. It's got a decal of you know warning biohazard because that's what was in keeping with the game loot. Uh, it is a color grade, way to color grade your scene. So I brought in a screenshot. In this case, it was up at the pizza. It was where I liked it. I had the exposure, hue, and brightness and contrast. So as you can see, as I toggle off these, how the scene is changing. It's kind of more kind of grimier kind of look with the darkness. At that point, you would output that with the effects on the loot, and then you would bring that into Unity. In Unity, on my main camera, I have it set up to take it. Volumetric fog. I followed the tutorial, got as far as this, and I added in my own for here around the edges, and then to block off the scene. So you will notice when the character comes into this area, it engulfs the camera. That's kind of it. Yeah, also as part of the requirements was like a tidy hierarchy and a tidy assets. This underscore scenes folder is empty. It's actually this. I just stuck to the one main scene. I didn't feel it was necessary to do an alternative. But for some reason, it was constantly open in the background. Uh, so I couldn't rename that as your naming convention was requested. Um, outside of that, then in terms of repo, I was using GitHub. Um, we'll continue to push up. I need to push up. And so just give you an idea of the game now. I'll turn that's off. So yeah, you pull up in your Batmobile. You've been summoned. Kind of moonlit sky there with the cloud cover. You have this side it's very kind of warm lights. Kind of the side of the street where there's no crime. The other side it gets a bit dodgier. Like I say, you got the warm kind of glow lights, kind of uniform look to it. Nice benches in places. Then obviously you cross over into the rougher side of town where there's plenty of fires and smoke and crime going on. So yeah, there's been a toxic spill, so you're obviously come to investigate. Um, I added these kind of like decals of a gas mask with this kind of one eye light. So maybe this is kind of like the bad guy or whatever. You have your real time lighting in this corner. If you want to get some pizza, um, Well, my lights are gone there. Right, so yeah, look, this was part of the brief. You wanted like a fence that you couldn't go beyond, but you could actually see the fact that there's, props. There's more going on. You notice the light from the what would be the moon. In terms of these zombies, there's like idle, walk forward, and this kind of attack mode. I took off they're falling down if they got hit kind of mode and stuff like that. Again, you'll notice the light, and then as you'd imagine, the moonlight's hitting on that side. It's kind of cool. So yeah, this overturned truck and our train, and you have the decals with the warning biohazard and a couple of kind of bits of graffiti. And then these lads are obviously after being infected by the gas. So just be careful. In theory, you could walk out here, but if this was a game, maybe your health would be affected if you touch off this gas, toxic gas. Okay. So then look, I have like different street lights going on, different areas of interest. Um, Again, this is another impasse here where you can actually go beyond it, and uh, you have your watermarks on these mattresses and stuff like that. Kind of scenario and some more graffiti. This is obviously like a whatever, like a homeless den or a junkie den or whatever. So, yeah, so like this model, actually, the further he goes on, the floor he's walking into, but can reset that. In terms of the lights, like I kind of like, I kind of felt like there'd be a bit of orange saying this first Chinese lantern up there as opposed to none. Again, that's the kind of moon coming in. Nothing can save us. Okay, very bleak. Here's just a mirror. It's kind of cool. Then again, like you have the light of the rim lighting kind of pointing up. Like in this sign, as in real life, maybe light bulbs aren't working in certain parts, so like maybe the tail end of that, there's no lights, and that's why it's like that. But again, I like the kind of bit of red light on, say, the first two lanterns here, coming off this hotel light. And then obviously this back then would be lit with the kind of moonlight, so the kind of greener. You have these kind of lights here for the pub, uh, bar, pub, tobacco. In terms of the floor, yeah, like this is decal. What it is just paving stones, taken from online, and then I added kind of like a grunge kind of dirty kind of look to it. Um, it's a bit more noticeable that it's the same template, same picture, when the lights are on, but given the dirt and the lighting that's actually in the scene, it's not as noticeable. Obviously, the likes of here, I'd go back over and have them blend in a bit better. Um, that's kind of it. Like little kind of details throughout the thing. The street signs pretty cool. Depending on where you are in the game, like if I was to reload it, this character that's up here, who's now I don't even know where he is meant to be behind the fence. And obviously, if you could add more, I know you limit us to 16 assets, but if you could add more, like, fill that area with, he's coming out of wall now. If you could fill out more zombies out the back, it'll be a bit more kind of impactful, instead of just having one at the all the different exits. But no, kind of Friday the 13th going on there. But yeah, so there's some nice lighting going on, I think, in the scene. Then you have, like I said, your cloud cover and things like that. So in terms of the colors and stuff like that and the lights, I was kind of happy with. I know there's a lot more work Um, I must have one of the decals turned off or moved. And obviously, like these guys moving here, um, they shouldn't be walking, into stones like that, but you'd clear a path in the actual game. That's just a bit of graffiti I took from online and stuff like that. But